Okay. Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Poway Unified School Board. It is it's June, not July. June 13th at 6:03. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast, so if you're here, you might be on our recording. I now invite you to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For our report out of closed session, Clerk Couvret.
Closed session began at 3:05. The Board of Education took the following action. 2.1-A, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 05282024, and a motion by Couvret and a second by Patel. The board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.1-B, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 05292024, on a motion by Patel and a second by Seitzma. The board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.1-C, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 05302024, on a motion by Seitzma and a second by Plotsky, the board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.1-D, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2024030095, on a motion by Patel and a second by Couvret, the board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.1-E, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2023120876, on a motion by Plotsky and a second by Seitzma, the board voted unanimously to approve the settlement agreement. 2.2-A, in the matter of conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation, consideration of procedures regarding appeal of findings on complaint against employee pursuant to Administrative Regulation 4030, Government Code Section 54957, on a motion by Plotsky and a second by Patel. The board voted unanimously to uphold investigation findings on a complaint against an employee processed under AR 4030 without a hearing. Now the fun part. 2.6-C, in the matter of public employee appointment, principal, elementary school, on a motion by Plotsky and a second by Patel, the board voted unanimously to take action in closed session to appoint Grace Cox as elementary school principal.
If she is here, oh, there she is.
2.6-C, in the matter of public employee appointment, principal, elementary school, on a motion by Seitzma and a second by Plotsky, the board voted unanimously to appoint Sue Melnick as elementary school principal. There was no other reportable action taken during closed session at this time. Closed session recessed at 5:52.
Thank you, Clerk Couvret. Please note all 6 members are in attendance, including Ms. Trivedi's very last meeting with us. And now to Ms. Trivedi for the welcome to the public.
Complete a speaker slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the clerk of the board before the agenda item comes up. Speaking time for agenda items is 2 minutes per speaker. If you would like to address the board on a non-agendized item, you may do so under item 4.2, public comments. Speaking time is limited to 2 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes total unless waived by the board president. There will be a 30-second yellow warning light when time is running out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item 4.2 and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. If there are concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrain from naming them publicly to respect their privacy. The board will accept and review any written materials that would provide more specific information. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
That takes us to item 3.5. This is our approval of our agenda and sequence. Note here, the board has not yet closed a public hearing regarding the 2024-25 proposed budget that occurred last week on June 4th, 2024. So if there are any additional public comments regarding the proposed budget, the board will consider any additional public comments prior to closing the public hearing and before taking action on agenda item 7.1. With that, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Patel, second by Dr. Seitzma. All in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you all. This takes us to 4.2, our public comments. Clerk Couvrette.
All right. Tim Dockery.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tim Doherty, and I'm a candidate for School Board Trustee Area A. And as the school year came to an end last week, and this is the last board meeting of the school year, I couldn't help but reflect on some of the things I'm proud of to have been part of this school year. Like the district, despite facing many challenges, there were numerous successes we're celebrating. In early August, Park Village found itself with its third principal in as many weeks. Fortunately, we struck gold and ended up with a wonderful principal who knows how to lead a school. I'm finishing up my second term as PTA president. This year, our incredible board and parent volunteers managed to restart the robotics, math, running clubs, as well as the Reflections Art program. We held our first spelling bee, and next year, the students will take part in Science Olympiad. There is nothing better for mental health and wellness than busy hands and busy minds. We also hosted a digital safety webinar. In my third term as school site council chairman, the council successfully worked with new members to become familiar with the school plan for student achievement, which is approved on time for all of you. We also established our safety committee. Additionally, I had the privilege to work with our DAC representative in the district on the new LCAP. I'm excited and eager to be elected for the opportunity to apply my years of local community service along with extensive engineering and supply chain career to help the district persevere in these challenging times. Thank you.
Lauren Gaw.
Good evening. As a proud member of the queer community, I'm here tonight to speak to the Palomar Council PTA decision to dissolve its JEDI committee. Across the country, LGBTQ plus students, families, and staff are being attacked. Their safety on campuses are at risk. Even here in PUSD, there are folks who boldly express their homophobia and transphobia. JEDI has advocated strongly for the safety of the LGBTQ plus families and PUSD. As a queer person, this advocacy means more than I can express to you in words. It means everything to our families. The PTA positions itself nationally as supporting the safety of LGBTQ plus families, but this decision by Palomar Council PTA clearly contradicts that stance. I want to be clear. Through this decision, the Palomar Council PTA Executive Board has made LGBTQ plus students and their families and staff unsafe in PUSD. This action must be condemned. National PTA should be aware of the actions of this Palomar Council leadership team as they are not abiding by the values stated by the organization. They should be removed from the PTA leadership. Thank you.
Dr. Devesh Vashistha. Sorry, I'm going to get that right.
I'm Dr. Devesh Vashishta family physician and father of two, running for PUSD Trustee Area A this November. Today, I want to speak about young children with special needs and the workforce shortages that impact these children. As we know, based on studies of early intervention, it is key to identify behavioral issues such as autism at an early age so that the relevant referrals and treatment can begin, potentially changing the trajectory of a child's life. As a doctor who cares for children, I know that we have a serious shortage of developmental and behavioral pediatricians in our community. Some of the special needs children I see in clinic are medically complex and would benefit from a doctor with subspecialty training in developmental and behavioral pediatrics to help manage their conditions. To see such a pediatrician in the community, my patients face waiting lists as long as 1 year. Today, as a family physician and school board candidate, I affirm my commitment to serving our younger children with special needs. As a part of my clinic's Medical Leadership Council, I'm actively involved in our efforts to train and hire more developmental and behavioral pediatricians in our community. In addition to my clinical work, if I'm privileged to be elected to the PUSD School Board this November, I will work collaboratively to improve our services for children with special needs. Thank you.
Stuart Cook.
Last week, cowardly Jedi used their own children as human shields to garner sympathy and deflect that their parent organization discarded them in disgrace. Jedi refuses to take any responsibility for what they've said, done, or written, and blames their cancellation on everyone but themselves. Jedi said in writing with Trans Family Services that they want to engage 3 to 5-year-old children in discussions of sex and gender because that's when they're most vulnerable. Also in writing, Jedi said, quote, "Children rely on information from school libraries, even information some people consider pornographic," unquote. In this group's own writing, they say your children rely on pornography from our schools. Jedi's not trying to push trans, sex, pornography, and hatred of those who disagree on their own children, because they can do that anytime at home. They're using the school district to gain access to other people's children to push their sick ideology. And while Jedi's own parent organization canceled them, our school board, with legendary horrible judgment, like always, led by Radcliffe and Patel, is working to put these Jedi radicals onto our school board, and already has one, Heather Plotsky, and they tried to replace Ginger with Jedi Frida Brunzel. Patel, Ratcliffe, School Board, will you continue to support these disgraced Jedi radicals, giving them access to our children and teachers? Their own parent organization doesn't even want them. If you support this group and groups like it, then certainly you must also support their radical ideology.
Anna Maria Maybury.
Good evening. My name is Anna Maria Maybury, and I'm the coordinator of the Jedi-Inspired Committee at Midland Elementary. I'm here to express my concern regarding the dissolution of Palomar Council's Jedi Committee, which happened without prior notice, discussion, transparency, or warning. Jedi inspired our unit PTA to advocate for those children and families who have not found their own voice yet, to reflect on how our PTA impacts families, and to make informed decisions. I'd love to share 3 examples. First, when important Tier 2 interventions were halted without communication to parents, it was our Jedi-inspired committee that spoke up on behalf of those parents and families. Second, our social media channels, which is a source of information for many parents, was only in English until our Jedi-inspired committee implemented Spanish translations. When we learned that families at our school with sensory needs did not feel comfortable attending school events, our Jedi-inspired committee initiated conversations with administration so accommodations could be available at future events. Without the Jedi Committee, our PTA would not have the leadership and education needed to incorporate practices that help make our school more welcoming and equity-minded. We know that positive systemic change is uncomfortable and forces us to face injustices, biases, and fear head-on. It's in our collective responsibility to lean into those uncomfortable feelings so that all students feel valued and supported in their education and on campus. I kindly request that the PUSD Board of Directors recognize and express
Jessica Tang.
Hi, I'm Jessica Tang, a concerned parent at Chaparral Elementary School. We are here today to express our deep frustration and disappointment in the Poway Unified School District's decision to increase student numbers at Chaparral without providing necessary infrastructure to accommodate them. Due to the district's lack of preparation, we anticipate a significant decline in the quality of education and the elimination of program spaces that make Chaparral an exemplary elementary school. We firmly believe that Poway Unified bears the responsibility to remediate this issue immediately. For a little background, Chaparral Elementary School had 871 students this past year in 35 classes. This upcoming year, 2 of our extracurricular rooms are being eliminated, and we are projected to lose a 3rd room next year, significantly impacting the viability and effectiveness of our STEM lab, art program, and music program. The majority of the school, approximately 70%, reside in Rancho Bernardo, a San Diego community, not Poway, and were therefore excluded from the farm vote. Yet, a future influx of students from the farm housing development are coming to Chaparral, affecting student experience. This was considered a Poway vote in the city of Poway, not San Diego. So what was the reason that the students and any future students are not attending a Poway city school, such as Painted Rock, which had 677 students this past year, which represents the population that voted for this change, which has led to this issue. The early farm buyers were told that their house was zoned for Painted Rock to begin with, and somewhere along the way, it was changed to Chaparral. Painted Rock is also much closer in proximity to the farm. Several of the farm residents have spoken of how Painted Rock is literally across the street, and they can hear the school bell from their houses, and they are confused as to why they are zoned for Chaparral. Painted Rock also has at least 3 classrooms used for extracurricular.
Lauren Ricks.
Hi, I'm Lauren, another concerned parent at Chaparral. So we were discussing how Painted Rock has 3 classrooms for extracurricular programs, including PE, Impact, and Science Lab. Their PE room is used only with weather permitting, non-weather permitting days. Why does Painted Rock get to keep their extracurricular classrooms, but Chaparral does not? Rolling Hills Elementary, a school with 467 students, got 3 modular classrooms this past year, and they also get to keep their STEM lab and music room. Why does Rolling Hills not only get to keep their extracurricular rooms, but they get additional classrooms? How is this equitable? Since the farm is owned for Chaparral Elementary, shouldn't a portion of the developer fees for building these new houses be used at Chaparral to purchase additional modular classrooms to house these students? Where is that money? The developer fees more than cover the cost of purchasing a new classroom. So why isn't it being used instead of eliminating our enrichment program spaces? We demand transparency from the board for how this money is being used, if not for the improvement of the schools to which these children are going. Regarding universal TK, legislation passed in 2021 giving Poway Unified School District 3 years to prepare for the transition to accommodate additional TK students. Now, after 3 years of this impending influx of students, our children, your students, are being affected. Chaparral already lacks the necessary infrastructure to support additional students, such as we don't have enough classrooms, we don't have enough bathroom spaces, lunchroom spaces, food, parking, traffic flow, corresponding traffic measures, and most importantly, staffing requirements. One example is that there's not enough eating tables for the kindergarten TK playground, so half of the students have to sit on the ground. They have no place to sit. Another example is that we already don't have the janitorial staff to prep the multi-purpose classroom on rainy days. So currently students eat standing in the MPR because there's no place to sit outside because the cover leaks for the lunchroom.
John Carroll.
At last week's meeting, I appreciated the board's reception of students reporting their school's activities and noticed many topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. It showed that members of this board recognize the positive impacts their support for this work can achieve. Yet upon learning about the dissolution of the Palomar Council Jedi Group, it became clear that the district's support to making a positive difference is in question. Jedi members recognize the need to be a resource for families, teachers, and students who need support in marginalized and unrepresented circumstances. As a former PUSD student who struggled with a learning disability, I know firsthand that this district can play an active role in disenfranchising its students. During these years, I was fortunate enough to have a teacher who saw the bigger picture. She was vocal about how Poway was a district only truly great for high performers, that it often left students on the sideline to feel marginalized or apathetic, repeatedly failing to support those who needed it most. Without that understanding and the support that this teacher provided me, I might not be here today. If a student is unsupported in their own identity, they are trapped in fearful isolation within what should otherwise be a social safety net. For a friend of mine, I learned he was transgendered in the same moment I learned that he took his own life. Only having become more aware and educated on this topic do I now know how tragically common that occurrence can be. Such instances are not anomalies, but proven statistics that can only improve if we do better as a community. I respectfully request the board members to instruct the PTA to reinstate their unequivocal support for Jedi. I also encourage board members to ask pointed questions to the individuals who initiated the motion for Jedi's dissolution in methods not aligned with their own written bylaws. Please ensure that justice does not remain separated from this DEI initiative. Thank you for your time.
Molly Ford.
Hi, I'm here also as another concerned chaparral parent. Although we acknowledge the state and Poway Unified School District budget cuts to the education this year, we cannot accept the lack of proactive planning to take advantage of state funds or appropriately disperse them to schools. Proposition 98 brought in $1.4 billion between 2021 and 2024. State budgets to help schools with facilities for preschool, TK, and full-day kindergarten programs. California also set aside $490 million from Assembly Bill 130 and another $100 million from the general fund in years 2022 and 2023 budgets, for a total of $2 billion in the past 3 school years to support families' growth of TK and kindergarten. This is not including the additional hundreds of millions of dollars set aside for personnel and curriculum. With 6,227 schools with elementary school-aged children in California, each school should have received $300,000 on average to prepare for TK. How did Poway Unified School District leverage this opportunity to plan accordingly for this change? Is Chaparral currently following the California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 14030 for accessible bathrooms for TK and K classes? Chaparral is planning on adding TK classes this upcoming year. There are only 3 classrooms with restrooms inside the classroom. So where are the other restrooms in the kindergarten complex? Are the restrooms on the big kid playground being counted? Are the adult-only restrooms being counted? Another issue is that parents are being asked to foot the bill for the impact reading program at Chaparral, with students that are still being affected from the disruption in education from COVID and our growing student population. Impact.
Erica Lopez.
Hi, I'm Erica, another Chaparral parent. With the district needs to currently the district needs to provide financially for impact through special education funds. Students with reading skills that are not up to grade level is a district's issue, not a parent issue. This current year, this was dependent upon parent donations. This past year, we had only 2 impact teachers. And with a growing student population this upcoming year, we will need at least 3 impact teachers. Regardless of whether COVID funds have been cut, the district provided reading assistance prior to COVID and needs to continue to provide the reading assistance. It is a natural conclusion that if a district is forcibly assigning students to a school, that it must provide the necessary resources, such as classroom and staff, and accommodate the students. However, you have failed to do so. As a result, the burden has been transferred to the school community, forcing spaces being used for enrichment programs to be reassigned to classrooms because you deem these rooms to be empty. These rooms are where futures are nurtured and young minds are inspired. We hold you accountable for the loss of legacy, the loss of our STEM lab, music room, and art room, causing great diminished capacity and impact of these programs. Programs that not only inspire, but create community. Because of your lack of foresight, students will no longer experience hands-on science or the wonder of building roller coasters to learn physics. Because of your lack of foresight, students will no longer move freely in their music class, explore different instruments, or dance. Because of your lack of foresight, students will lose the ability to explore the magic of creative expression in art. Most importantly, because of your lack of foresight, we forego how these programs, primarily supported and funded by
Dan?
Dear member of the board, first of all, I would like to thank you for listening to our concerns about NCRC and following up on this in timely manner. The other topic I wanted to talk about is JEDI. Last time we had a JEDI member here criticizing the decision to dismantle that committee. One person came to defense of the president of this committee, saying that they don't have time and resources to monitor social media of their president, while at the same time they routinely publish posts which systematically exclude groups in our community. We also saw a very interesting phenomenon where another member of the JEDI, who is not participating in Judaism and don't participate in Jewish community, suddenly took responsibility to speak on behalf of Jewish community, just to explain that Hak, Israel, with F, is not anti-Semitic. I would like to respectfully try to explain this, because it's difficult to understand what other people feel without being in their shoes. If someone from Mexican descent would see a post by president of JEDI that reads Hak Mexico, no mention of ethnicities like Zapotec or Mixtec, do you think they wouldn't be offended? Or other example, the post, good morning to everyone but Indians, without mentioning Hindus, Jains, Sikh explicitly, do you think they will feel good for a member of the community who came from India? You can do it for every ethnic group, and we all know it will be hurtful. It's why it's okay. Why then it's okay to treat Jews in this way? When I was a kid in Soviet Union, I constantly experienced anti-Semitism. If you think you can get used to it, you're wrong. When I grew up and became a parent, it's heartbreaking that my kids need to go through this in America. We stand here to pledge of allegiance and tell one nation, justice for all. We, as a community, cannot turn blind eye when one group of our community is singled out and bullied. This is not what America stands for. Back to JEDI. We hear a lot of excuses and whitewashings. What we did not hear is a clear and loud rejection of JEDI president, hateful rhetorics. We didn't see JEDI expelling her, we just emphasized their complacency. JEDI is a racist group which promote hate in our community.
Frank Shu.
Good evening, Board Trustees. I learned that former Superintendent Phelps filed a tort claim against Poway Unified School District this Wednesday. Thanks to her second legal filing against the team PUSD, the public now knows more details about why she is fired. I believe you need to increase transparency here to the public. And we now learn the fact that Phelps started an investigation against LR right after the banquet, and she interfered with the entire investigation, which is clearly a conflict of interest, which is well stated in the board's fire later. So the question now is that, did the law firm Atkinson, Anderson, Lawyer, Rude, and Romo dig out the fact, or it's unknown to you after the law firm's investigation? If it was a known fact to you, you would screw up the school district and expose the legal risk to the Phelps case again. If it was an unknown fact to you by then, the law firm didn't do a good job, either because of their incompetence or their inability to tell you about the clear conflict of interest, not to mention their potential ethical concerns. However, you voted in last meeting for this firm to handle your legal cases while knowing that they made a huge mistake to mislead you and waste the school district hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, which firm will handle Phelps' case? I'm here to urge you, please do not use the firm Atkinson, Anderson, Lawyer, Rude, and Romo to handle this case because it's a clear conflict of interest. They were at fault on Phelps-related cases. As the board bylaws 9270A states, quote, no board member, district employee, or other person in a designated position shall participate in the making of any decision for the district when the decision will or may be affected by the board members, district employees, or other designated persons' financial, family, or other person.
Lauren Baker.
Hi, I'm another concerned chaparral parent and another Lauren. Another issue at our school that is regarding the lunch is that the last lunch period often runs out of food. With the influx of students, how are we going to feed more kids when we don't have enough food to feed the ones that we have? And most importantly, because of the lack of foresight, we forgo how these programs, primarily supported and funded by parent volunteers, won't create a sense of community. We are frustrated, disappointed, and baffled at the disregard for our school. As parents, we make an investment in time, energy, and money, and you have swiftly eroded the integrity of these programs. So yes, we are here to hold you accountable. While we welcome new students into our already impacted school, we also simultaneously demand that you support us with additional funding to create the infrastructure necessary to support our growing school community. Thank you.
Henry DeMatteis.
I was a part of the chaparral and
We finished.
yeah, we finished.
He said it. But he's a supportive dad.
That's all the comments.
All right, that takes us to 5.1, the consent calendar. Clerk Fred, I understand we have at least one item to pull.
We need to pull two items, 5.2C and 5.3A.
Would any other board member care to pull any items? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve minus those two items? Clerk
Motion to
Couvret?
approve.
Motion by Couvret, second by Seitzma. All in favor? Aye. That is unanimous, I believe. Ms. Plotsky, I didn't see your vote. Yes? Okay, 5-0. Thank you. 5.2C. This is approval of salary reallocations for classifications as identified as part of years 3 through 6 of the classification review cycle. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. In response to the classification and compensation study that was conducted by Educational Management Solutions over the last year, that process also included the option for employees to appeal the initial recommendations. This item on the Exhibit A are the results of appeals that were filed by employees and incumbents in these classifications. These recommendations are for a reallocation to a higher salary range. They are not new classifications. And the costs for these recommendations were previously negotiated in 2022, August of 2022, with our PSCA union, and that has already been built into the budget as an ongoing expenditure from that settlement a year and a half ago.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Clerk Couvret.
Dr. Devesh Vashitha, sorry.
Vashishta. Thanks. I'm Dr. Devesh Vashishta, family physician and father of 2, running for PUSD Trustee Area A this November. I asked that we pull this item from the consent calendar because I'm a healthcare worker and employee myself, and I wanted to highlight some positive aspects of this negotiation. To start, I was happy to see that critically valuable employees, including safety and environmental technicians, food and nutrition warehouse specialists, HVAC and refrigeration technicians, and athletic trainers, spoke up to advocate for salary grade ranges that more fairly compensate the value of their work in PUSD. I believe firmly that all PUSD employees deserve a living wage and that our district can only function optimally when we provide fair pay and benefits for our workers. I was also happy to see that our Personnel Commission worked collaboratively with PSEA to agree upon a salary reallocation, and I'm sure this negotiation was difficult given our current budget deficits. If I am elected as a trustee this November, I hope to contribute to this culture of collaboration between district administration and employees. I also hope that as a district, we can continue to value our employees, not just through awards and honors, which are important, but also through fair pay and benefits that allow our employees to put food on the table, pay rent or mortgage, take vacations, and receive high-quality health care. Thank you for your time tonight.
With that, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
On a motion by Dr. Patel, is there a second? Second by Ms. Plotsky. A comment?
I'll just make one comment that it's really been kind of frustrating to see all these appeals keep coming up, and I really wish that the company that did all these allocations got it more right the first time, because we keep seeing this every month. So next time when we go to do these when we go to relook at these different cycles, I hope we choose a better firm or somehow learn this lesson.
Couldn't agree more. Any other comments, and are we ready for a vote? All right, all in favor? Aye. That's 5-0. I'm sorry, mic was off. Passes unanimously. 5.3A is approval ratification of contractual services report number 12-2024. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is our monthly report to the board asking for their approval or ratification for contracts $15,000 and above.
Clerk Couvret.
This is Dr. Devesh Vashitha.
And I apologize, I think my handwriting, maybe being a physician, it's hard to read. I had written 5.3G, not A.
And we already passed that one. I would use my discretion here to allow you to make your comment on it, but we've already voted on it. So go ahead.
Thanks, I'll be quick. So 5.3-G is on the fuel contract purchase. So I really asked that we pull this item because I'm an environmentalist and just wanted to speak about it for a little bit. So my understanding is that this item approved $1.1 million to be spent over the next 2 years to purchase unleaded gasoline and renewable diesel. Like many of our wonderful students and community members, I believe that we as a PUSD community must rapidly transition away from fossil fuels, both to improve air quality in our communities and to address the existential threat of climate change. While I understand that turnover in transportation fleets and other gas-powered machines such as heating and cooling systems can take time and has fiscal implications, I hope we can better delineate and act upon our district's environmental goals. My children are currently ages 3 and 6, and if they are fortunate enough to graduate from high school, I hope they can do so in a PUSD that is fully electric, with zero emissions and a robust commitment to our planet. Thank you.
No. Thank you for that, and I'm sorry we pulled the wrong one there. But with that, is there a motion to approve 5.3A?
Motion to approve 5.3A.
Thank you, Ms. Couvret, a second by Dr. Seitzma. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. That passes 5-0. That takes us to 6.1, approval of new classification and salary allocation, athletic program assistant. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President O'Connor-Ratcliffe. As part of the classification study, a classification appeal was submitted by the incumbents in the office specialist classification that provides support specifically to athletic directors at the district's 5 comprehensive high schools athletic programs, where approximately 50 to 60% of our students at each school participate in the program as student athletes, and some in multiple sports, as you know. The appeal review considered the complexity of work and the level of independence and responsibility and workload to ensure that the smooth operations of the program, in contrast to other office support positions, for the purposes of determining internal alignment. 7 comparative districts with similar high school athletic programs were also reviewed for position comparisons. Based on this appeal review, it is recommended to approve the creation of a new classification entitled Athletic Program Assistant, and the salary allocation to range 28 of the PSEA Unit 1 salary schedule. In accordance with the Personnel Commission rules, the existing positions and the incumbents shall be reclassified from office specialist to the athletic program assistant. This recommendation was also recently approved by the Personnel Commission on May 29th, and it's now presented to the board for final approval.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Are there questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Plotsky, and a second by Dr. Patel. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. That passes unanimously, 5-0. Thank you. (6.2) Approval of the new classification and salary allocation, athletic program assistant bilingual. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. In response to the classification study and the appeal that was submitted by the office specialists that serve in our athletic departments at these 5 high schools, it was noted that one of the 5 incumbents was in the classification of office specialist bilingual. In relation to the initial recommendation that was just approved in item 6.1 to establish the new classification of athletic program assistant, it's now recommended to approve the creation of the athletic program assistant bilingual and the salary allocation to range 30 of the PSEA Unit 1 salary schedule. This recommended range maintains the 5% bilingual differential between a bilingual and non-bilingual designated position classification. This recommendation was also recently approved on May 29th by the Personnel Commission and is brought forward this evening for final board approval.
Thank you again, Mr. Jimenez. Questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Plotsky. A second by Dr. Seitzman. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. That's 5-0, unanimous. Thank you. I'm missing a green sheet. 6.3, can I look over your shoulder? Sure. Thank you. 6.3, approval of a new classification and salary allocation bus driver trainee. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Despite our continuous efforts to recruit and train school bus drivers, the district faces a driver shortage, as we know. Beginning in the 2021-22 school year, the Transportation Department began to encounter challenges in attracting bus driver candidates. This is a unique recruitment due to the fact that the training and certification requirements for a school bus driver in the state may take 2 to 3 months to complete. This presents barriers for many willing candidates who historically are not paid for the hours that they attend training prior to becoming a school bus driver. This recommendation is to approve the creation of a new classification, bus driver trainee. Implementing a limited-term bus driver trainee position would enable the district to compensate trainees for the average of 84 hours of training that's required to become a PUSD school bus driver. This trainee position will alleviate the challenges to recruitment and the completion of the certification program. It's recommended that the bus driver trainee be allocated to range 28 of the PSEA unit salary schedule, Unit 2 that is, and this classification was recently approved by the Personnel Commission on June 11th and is presented to the board for final approval.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. In the fiscal impact section of the green sheet, it says cost neutral. Can you please expand a little bit on that?
So this, the costs that we incur with training, we have been trying to support those that incur costs with certifications in the past, which has been challenging. We feel that by compensating for the actual hours that they are in training, that this cost will be cost neutral because it will be offset in terms of the cost that we experience through the lack of routes that we're able to implement on a day-to-day basis. This will fill the vacancies that we have as well. And I'll ask Mr. Little as well, as he's been deep in this work with our transportation department as well, to comment any further.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. No, I think Mr. Jimenez hit the major points. So by encouraging and recruiting more trainees who will eventually become employees, we should be able to reduce the substitute bus driver costs that we've been incurring as they help fill the vacancies that we currently have.
And I could imagine that this might also help with ADA, et cetera, long-term.
That's right.
So broadly fiscally neutral. Thank you.
I'm very happy to see this because I don't know of many jobs out there where you have to pretty much volunteer your time to get 80 hours worth of training for a job that pays the way the bus drivers pay. So I'm very happy for this change, so thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Motion by Dr. Patel, second by Ms. Plotsky. Any questions, discussion, anything else? No? All in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously, 6-0. 6.4, approval of reclassification and salary reallocation from Department Operations Technician to Facilities Maintenance and Operations Specialist. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. Also, as part of our administrative appeals from the classification study, an incumbent in the Department Operations Technician classification submitted an appeal. A review was conducted by staff through interviews and analysis of the work. It was discovered the incumbent's current responsibilities, especially in managing a broad scope of trades, high volume of transactions, and specialized contracting and compliance tasks, indicate a more specialized aspect to the work that's performed related to supporting this department. The review shows the incumbent's duties more closely align with the essential functions of the existing facilities, maintenance, and operations technician classification. It's recommended that the incumbent employee in this position be reclassified to the facilities maintenance and operations technician from range 32 to range 35 of the Unit 1 salary schedule. This recommendation was recently approved by the Personnel Commission on May 29th and is presented this evening to the board for final approval.
Comments? Motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Plotsky, second by Dr. Seitzma. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Ms. Plotsky, I'm not seeing your mouth move. Thank you. You did make the motion, so I assumed. But okay, 5-0. That's unanimous. Thank you. 6.5, initial proposal for contract negotiations from the Poway School Employees Association, Unit 1, to the Board of Education 2024-2025. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President.
On fire tonight.
Yes, we're going to keep going here, chugging away. So we have a 3-year existing contract with the PSEA Unit 1. We are about to enter year 2 of that 3-year contract per the provisions outlined in the contract. We are subject to reopener negotiations. This is the initial proposal from PSEA to the district for reopener negotiations. This evening, this item only does not require that the board vote to approve it. It's just approving receipt of the proposal from PSCA so that we can open reopener negotiations.
Questions? All right, is there a motion to acknowledge that we have received this initial proposal?
Motion to approve receipt?
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Plotsky. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0. Thank you. 6.6, very similar initial proposal for the contract negotiations from the Poway School Employees Association. Did I say 6.5? Excuse me, I meant 6.6. Unit 2 this time, to the Board of Education, 2025, or 2024, 2025. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. We're going to bring this to closure for the items in the 6.0s. This is the Unit 2 PSCA initial proposal for reopener negotiations. This is year 2 of the 3-year agreement, so this authorizes the parties to engage in reopener negotiations on a limited number of articles outlined on their initial proposal at the beginning of next school year.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Questions? Motion to approve receipt of such proposal.
To approve
Oh, she wins. Dr. Seisma with the motion, second by
I'll second.
Ms. Plotsky. Any discussion? All right, thanks, everyone. All in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. 7.1 is the adoption of the 2024-2025 proposed budgets and approval of related criteria and standards. Clerk Couvret, are there any additional public comments on this item? All right, hearing no additional public comments, I am closing the public hearing regarding the 2024-2025 proposed budget at 6:55. All right, we'll move to Mr. Little.
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, we seek the approval of the board for the 2024-2025 PUSD budgets. This includes the general fund budget as well as 13 other funds budgets. Last week, as you know, we provided a comprehensive first reading of the district's general fund budget for the board and the public. Next slide, please. Here's what we'll cover this evening. Next slide, please. Before we get started, just wanted to share a few housekeeping items. We posted all of our budgets again on June 7th. The SACS forms, which are the state-required reporting forms that we submit to the County Office of Ed, were also posted to our website at the same time. And we have our detailed multi-year projections accompanying the green sheet, which provides a delineation of all of our fiscal assumptions. Next slide, please. I revised this slide earlier this morning, and then at 4 p.m. this afternoon, we received word that the state passed, the legislatures in Sacramento actually passed a state budget. So what we know is that the state has passed its Budget Act. They have come to an understanding. They're projecting additional revenues for next year, the legislators are. However, they're also suspending Prop 98 on the flip side of that same coin. What they've said is that K-12s will remain, will be held harmless in 2024-25, as we note in the last bullet point here. So we were anticipating no changes in the state budget with respect to K-12 education and community college districts. That seems to be what the Budget Act has solidified. However, as you know, the trailer bills, which will come out over the next couple of weeks, they provide the meat of the bill, and we'll see how those sort of play out over the next 2 weeks. But it is pretty much what we expected. I note here that if it weren't, we could certainly bring back another budget to the board 45 days from now, but I don't think that will be necessary. Next slide, please. So just as we were anticipating no major changes at the state level for its proposal next year, the fiscal assumptions that we use to build our own general fund budget for next year remain unchanged from last week's presentation, and we note them again here. I won't go through them all, but again, if there's any questions about any of them, I'm happy to answer those questions. Next slide, please. Here's another look at the $12.5 million of budget solutions that we've included in next year's budget, along a spectrum of where the impacts will likely be felt. Next slide, please, and we saw that last week. With respect to pupil transportation for next year, we are moving forward with scenario 5 as we proposed, and about which I went into much detail last meeting. Again, happy to answer any questions. Next slide, please. So we'll turn our attention to the general fund budget. The numbers, again, remain the same as last week. Our revenues, we're projecting at $516.3 million. Next slide, please. Our expenditures, we're projecting at a little over $545 million. We should note that the first 3 lines of this budget, classified salaries, certificated salaries, and employee benefits, represent about 86% of our total general fund budget. And I'll note again that the capital outlay budget there of $9.8 million represents our site safety projects and our VAPA projects, which will be funded with the remaining arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant funds. Next slide, please. So given the revenues and the expenditure projections, this represents a combined general fund deficit for Poway Unified of approximately $28.8 million. Of that, $15.4 million is restricted carryover. So that's carryover. Those are funds we didn't spend this year that we have to spend on certain things, and they're already built into the expenditures for next year. This will take our general fund ending balance from, as you can see on the slide, $105 million to $76.3 million. It will also result in a 9.3 reserve level, which we'll note on the next slide. Next slide, please. So with respect to reserves then, our reserves at the end of next year are projected to be at about $49.8 million in the general fund. We add to that about $741,000 from Fund 17. That takes us to about $50.5 million of reserves at the end of next fiscal year, which takes us to about 9.3% reserve level. Next slide, please. We're going to transition quickly to all other funds. As we do this time every year, we're providing you just a summary slide in the next slide. But again, all the details are in the SACS reports, as well as the annual budget book that we provided to the board and the public. Next slide, please. So these are the other 13 funds that Poway Unified manages and utilizes to serve our students. As you can see, we have a projected beginning balance of each fund. Then we're projecting what we anticipate with respect to revenues for next year in each fund, followed by what we anticipate expending in each fund, and the net activity comes net. The net activity is simply revenues minus expenditures. So it's kind of like your operating expense or your net surplus. And then you subtract that from the beginning balance and you get your projected ending balance. As you'll note, all of our funds are in good shape. Those that have zero balances, like the Adult Ed Fund, that's a fund obviously that is sort of a break-even proposition, right? So we're charging our students what it costs to host those programs and serve that community. So the goal is not to have a profit at the end of the year, but spend those dollars on the programs that we're offering the classes, or I'm sorry, offering the community. The Deferred Maintenance Fund, you can see because we have so few capital funds, we're projecting spending all $2 million that we're allocating to Fund 14. And then the last thing that I'd say about this slide is, again, we say this every year, Fund 63, which is our ESS preschool fund, it's the only fund of these 13 that use a different accounting treatment method. And that method forces us to book all the long-term liabilities as expenditures within the actual operations of the fund. And that's why it looks like it's deficit spending, or actually this looks like why, yeah, it's deficit spending, or has a negative beginning balance. But once you factor out those long-term liabilities, which of course can be amortized over time, you can see in our notes there that if you use the modified accrual-based accounting methodology, then it actually has a projected ending balance of a positive $9.7 million. Next slide, please. So that's our presentation for this evening, and we just ask that the board adopt all of the budgets that we present this evening, as well as all the supporting SACS documents that are required. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Any questions? Dr. Patel, take it away.
I have two specific questions so far, anyway. One is around your slide 4, where you talked about Sacramento updates. Did you see any updates on dedicated funding for TK facilities? I thought I remember hearing that the governor had proposed pulling all of that TK facilities funding back. And although we thought we would be receiving some of that funding, we are now not going to receive that. Is that correct?
Yes, as my understanding is that still is the case. I believe there was either $850 million, I want to say, in his May revised proposal that was being delayed. Those were funds that were targeted for transitional kindergarten facilities. I think it's also important to note that those funds traditionally, given the 3 years that they've been available, they've been competitive grants, right? So you've either had to apply for them or they were dispersed based on your UPP numbers, right? Your unduplicated pupil count numbers. So we've never been eligible for those funds as a district, and it's not likely that we would be eligible moving forward given our low UPP numbers. And we've been saying that in Sacramento since it was first proposed, as you know. You've been a strong advocate for those funds and freeing them up and making them more equitably distributed to all 1,000 K-12 districts in the state who all have TK students coming to their schools.
Can you explain to the audience what UPP is? Because I think a few people were expecting us to be able to get that TK funding, and they might not understand why we don't.
UPP, unduplicated pupil percentage, is the pro rata portion of the total student population that's made up of English language learners, foster youth, and those students from lower income households. So San Diego Unified, the last I looked, had a UPP of something like 58%. Escondido, just north of us, has something like 73%. And our UPP, those three groups make up about 20% of our student population. And it's not just the TK facilities grants. There's many state grants and state funds that they use the UPP number to decide where those funds are going to, for better or for worse.
Thank you for that explanation. This continues to be an ongoing challenge as we strive for equity, of course, to help those students that need most supports, but at the same time, when it's universal issues like facilities for an unfunded mandate to begin with, we keep pushing to advocate for those funds to come universally across our entire system. My second question is regarding, when we look at the other accounts, I believe it was slide 12.
Could you move to slide 12, Rich, please?
And I don't know if it's actually slide 12 because I saw slide 16 slip in between. But yes, so with this one, slide 12, which funds do our developer fees go into?
Our developer fees are deposited into Fund 25, the Capital Facilities Fund.
Okay, and do we keep any kind of, structure priorities around which projects generate those developer fees? I know when it came to the golf course redevelopment and Carmel Mountain Ranch and the impacts on Shoal Creek, we had talked about this, making sure that those funds went directly to those schools being impacted. Mm-hmm. Are we doing the same thing with the Farms project?
We are. In fact, I believe that we have allocated some funds for Chaparral. to refurbish some of the classrooms that will be used next year. We're also looking ahead as those students matriculate up. Twin Peaks, I believe, would be another school that would benefit from those funds, right, as would Poway High School.
And are there sufficient funds in there or is there a need based on, you know, the actuarial designations of how many children being generated for those homes to put in additional classrooms?
Well, that's an interesting question. We do site utilization studies, right, every year. Our director of planning is here, and she can speak more in detail than I can. But when we do those site utilization studies, we take into account the space available for classrooms, right, traditional education classrooms, and there's a ratio that we look at with respect to the number of students and the number of classrooms available. So those auxiliary spaces, right, that are being used for other purposes, those exist at all schools, right? But in the end, when we need classrooms for additional students, those are still, from our perspective, available for daily instruction and to add classrooms. With respect to the funding, if you look at Fund 25, we're projecting to spend $2.9 million of those funds next year. That has to do, if I'm off the top of my head, I think we're replacing the HVAC at Black Mountain Middle School. We're replacing the gym roof at Black Mountain Middle School. Some of that may be going to the Abraxas project. So these are all board-approved projects that have a nexus with those funds that you were mentioning that we've looked at and prioritized in the past.
And for Black Mountain specifically, that's from the redevelopment of the golf course in PQ.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
several golf courses being redeveloped at this time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments? Is there any news yet on the inclusive preschool grant versus the electric bus grant? Anything on that yet?
Nothing new on either of those.
We expect maybe in the next few weeks
I
when
think
they
so.
work things out.
That's right.
All right. If you haven't already, please advocate on behalf of the inclusive preschool grant, which we are likely to benefit from, versus the electric school bus grant, which we will not in any way benefit from. Please advocate.
Just to add on to that, CSBA has been advocating to pull back on the electric bus grant to stall it out.
Fantastic, as have I. So
Yeah.
personally, to our electeds in this area who will be voting on this, please do reach out if you have not yet. And with that, is there any other comment? Let's take a vote. Is there a motion?
Do the whole thing, huh? Can you put it up there, what we need to say?
You just get to approve the budget.
Can I add one more discussion?
I remember there's a long part
Absolutely,
there,
Dr.
so.
Patel. Go.
So I continue to be concerned about the busing, and I'm voting in support of this budget because I know this is what we have to do. It is time sensitive. At the same time, I really hope that we can continue to have conversations with our community groups. I like that we're doing all that we can to recruit bus drivers, so thank you for bringing that earlier item forward. And I hope that we can, be in a position sooner rather than later to hire more bus drivers and have our routes restored. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve. I think that's what you're looking for, Madam President.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm looking to Ms. Plotsky. Did you have another comment? Wait, let me recognize the motion in the second. A motion by Dr. Patel and a second by Ms. Couvret. All right, go ahead, Ms. Plotsky.
So I've had a lot of people ask about books and lunches and those kind of programs. I just wanted to make it aware. So the free lunches and free breakfasts that come out that we're paying for, those are mandated. We don't have a choice to do that. It's not something that we can stop doing. We have to pay for those. And we have to provide those to students and all students. It's a mandate, and as well as textbooks. So those are things, and I had a lot of people asking me about digital textbooks. So those are just more costly. They just double the cost. So when they provide those. So those are a couple things that I've had people question to me personally in the last few weeks, and I wanted to make clear that it's not that we're not looking into these things. Your suggestions are appreciated, and we like to hear them, and I try to answer when people ask me. But those are definitely things that we just can't get rid of because they're mandated, and there's some where we have to do them as well. So thank you.
I would just tag on to that explanation on the breakfast and lunch program. That's out of Fund 13 as well, and it pays for itself entirely. That does not come out of the general fund in any way. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll start down at the end. Ms. Trivedi, thank you. And everyone else, all in favor? Aye. Aye. That's unanimous, 6-0. Thank you for the work on this. This has not been easy, and it only gets harder from here, so thank you.
Thank you.
7.2 is the approval of 2024-25 balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. You saw this last week as well. Pursuant to California Ed Code Section 42127A2B, we present to the board our projected 2024-25 general fund balances in excess of the minimum required reserve of 2%. Looking at the enclosed budget attachment, you can see that we're anticipating a general fund reserve of $49.8 million. Add to that the $741,000 from Fund 17. We'll have a total ending fund balance, a total reserve balance of $50.5 million, as I mentioned. Of that, we have a $10.9 million 2% required reserve, so that leaves $39.6 million of excess balance, and you can see how we've delineated that below. 38.9 of that is for budget stabilization moving forward, and we're recommitting the 741 that we took from Fund 17 to all things technology, which is how we use Fund 17 traditionally. So we'll need approval of this, please.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Questions, comments, motions?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Couvret made the motion. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Seitzma. Discussion on this one? No? All right, I'll start at the end. Ms. Trivedi. Thank you. And everybody else, all in favor? Aye. That's 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
8.1 is the approval of the Poway Unified School District Local Control and Accountability Plan for 2024 through 2027, and our LCAP annual update for 2023-2024. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. On June 4th, we brought forward for a first reading the 2024-2027 LCAP for your review and the annual update for 2023 and 2024. We have also received feedback from the County Office of Education regarding alignment of goals, actions, metrics, services, and finances. Our District Advisory, English Learner Advisory, and Community Advisory Committees have all reviewed the LCAP update, and all of their questions and comments have received a response. I would like to take a moment to express my appreciation to the collaborative team in LSS and the team in finance to prepare this year's LCAP. Tonight, we're seeking your approval on the final draft so we can submit the plan to the San Diego County Office of Education for their approval.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Questions, comments on this one? No, we already had a chance to talk about this one. All right, second time through.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Oh, okay. Call the public speaker. Yes.
Sorry, Tim. Tim Dockery, please. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Tim Doherty, and as I mentioned in my previous comments, I've had the honor, really, of serving as an elected member of our school site council and chairperson for the last few years. And this experience has really been incredibly rewarding, allowing me to connect with other engaged parents and gain a deeper understanding of the SIPSA, the LCAP, the funding formula, and testing data. Excuse me. Mostly in my comments here, I really want to express my sincere gratitude to Mercedes, her teams, They have consistently answered questions, made great efforts to educate the public while meeting all the necessary requirements to achieve their objectives. I've attended DAC meetings for a few years now, and I've come to really appreciate the immense effort involved in the LCAP process, especially during a year when a new plan is developed like this year. The requirements and reporting for the LCAP are undoubtedly vast and complex. That said, I believe there must be more efficient and effective systems and processes that can fulfill these same requirements and yield better results. Throughout my career, I've written, read, and evaluated hundreds of plans or reports. And in my experience, simplicity and clarity are key. A 281-page plan to address the 3 goals that we have seem awfully bureaucratic. It's unrealistic to expect the average parent volunteer to review such an extensive document in depth within the time allotted. Once again, congratulations to Ms. Settis, the teams, and all the DAC members, parents, who contributed to this monumental task. So, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
On a motion by Dr. Patel, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Plotsky. Any further discussion on this one? All right, thank you. All in favor? Well, I'll start at the end. Thank you. Everybody else? Aye. All right, that passes unanimously, 6-0. 8.2 is the approval of the updated Poway Unified School District Local Control and Accountability Plan Federal Addendum for 2024-2025. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, President O'Connor-Ratcliffe. As part of the Every Student Succeeds Act and the LEA plan requirement, we present for board approval the updated LCAP federal addendum. This addendum explains our strategy for utilizing federal funding such as Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV to supplement and enhance district initiatives and LCAP goals. The addendum also documents our approach to supporting our underserved students through the federal funding allocated via the consolidated application.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Questions on this item? I wish it was more money, but anyway. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. Any further discussion? No? I'll just take everybody at once this time. All in favor? Aye. All right, that's 6-0. Thank you. 8.3 is the California School Dashboard Local Indicators. Ms. Peterson.
And once more, thank you, Madam President. Tonight we have a brief presentation that shows our progress on local indicators identified by the State Board of Education for this school year, 2023-2024. The report reflects the 5 priority areas identified by the state through the Local Control Funding Formula, or LCFF, accountability system. I would like to thank our Executive Director, Christine Donnelly, and our Data and Assessment team, who all supported the review of the local indicators. And with that, I'll turn it over to Christine Donnelly.
All right, thank you. Next slide. So our state's school accountability system, the dashboard, reports information from both district and school level in regard to state performance, information that I've already presented at a previous board meeting, and it also presents on local indicators, which is the focus of tonight's presentation. The dashboard will be updated in December of 2024 with the information that I am presenting tonight. Next. So these are the local indicators that all districts are required to self-assess annually, and I'll explain each in detail. Next. For each local indicator, the standard has been met when a district self-analyzes its status and satisfies the performance standards. The dashboard will automatically assign one of 3 performance levels: standard met, standard not met, or standard not met for 2 years. Now, in priority 1 is basic services and conditions of schools. This one we examine our appropriate placement of teachers, student access to curriculum aligned to the standards, and the condition of our school facilities. Now, in the one that says instances where facilities do not meet the state's good repair standard, including deficiencies and extreme deficiencies, please note that based on the state standards, we did not have any school site facilities identified as deficient. However, it's very important to note that while we meet the state standard of good repair, our own facilities condition assessment and long-range facility master plan identifies facility needs as our schools continue to age. So priority 2, in using a 5-point reflection tool found at the bottom of that slide, we examined our implementation of the state academic standards. Please note that the state asks for 1 reflection number for TK through 12, even though our different levels may be at different points in adoption and implementation. As you can see in the chart, we are at a 5 in 3 areas, including progress in providing professional learning in English language arts and math. This past year was our first with the new illustrative math curriculum in elementary school. There was robust professional learning for elementary teachers during the 2023 summer and throughout this past school year. And then this past January, we adopted a new comprehensive TK curriculum that ensures TK students will have access to activities that align with the California Pre-K Learning Foundations. For implementation of state academic standards, we're in full implementation with sustainability in these 5 areas: standards of career technical education, physical education, standards of world language, and the identification of the professional learning needs for both groups of teachers and individuals. We are at a 4 in supporting our teachers and administrators in the teaching of the California state standards via our site-specific professional learning structures and through our differentiated teaching and learning cooperative, also known as TLC opportunities. Because this was year 1 of Proposition 28, the Arts and Music School Funding, we're at a 3 in our VAPA standards as we work to expand our VAPA programs. And during this past school year, at the elementary level, we were in the planning phase for the elementary program and an initial implementation for our secondary sites. Moving on to priority 3, parent engagement. The Poway Unified School District values and encourages parent input and participation. 87% of responding parents agreed that Poway Unified encourages parents to be an active partner in their child's education, and 85% agree that their school welcomes their participation. The next survey that will hit these same questions will be fall of 2024. In February of 2024, we also continued the use of thought exchange. 79% of the 6,800 adults were parents, plus 744 students. They all shared comments, ideas, and opinions in response to the question, what existing or additional programs or specific supports should we prioritize to ensure our students' future success? The results of that survey and other surveys guide the establishment of goals and priorities as reflected in the LCAP reports, which shape the district goals and guide our budgeting priorities for the school year. During the 2023-24 school year, we engaged representative students, parents, and staff through the PUSD Equity Advisory Committee, and that committee met 5 times as a large group, along with several subcommittee meetings aimed at refining and establishing a clearer set of metrics that will align more purposefully with the LCAP goals, focusing on improving racial equity and inclusion across school sites, as well as the district office. The California Department of Education requires that districts review 3 categories of parent engagement. Building relationships is the first area, which is a strength for our district, but with room for continuous improvement. In 21-22, we actually created a new position to help guide this work, the Director of Equity and Improvement. And this past school year, our equity teams continued at each site, and elementary teams focused on increasing the engagement and connectedness of our parents of historically underrepresented students. Our district also prides itself in partnering with our parents to yield positive outcomes for our students. In our professional development work with our staff, we will continue to focus on strategies that staff can use to enhance their interactions with families. Our student success strategies S-cubed process continues to build partnerships between the teacher, site, and parents to create plans for student success. And our Care and Connection Center offers a large variety of parent workshops to provide information and resources. Seeking parent input from families is highly valued and supported in our district and at our sites, and is an important area that as we continue to refine. Parents have opportunities to serve on site-level advisory committees, such as the School Site Council, Safety Committee, and the English Learner Advisory. At the district level, you find our parents involved in the Community Advisory Committee, District Advisory Committee, and Inclusive Practices Advisory. This is in addition to the Special Education Parent Ambassador Program and Racial Equity Advisory Committee. I think I hit that one. Oh, thank you. Oh, where were you one off? I apologize. All right, school climate is priority 6. We continually work at defining school climate and improving school climate. And to analyze the school climate, we use the California Healthy Kids Survey, which was last administered in fall of 2022 to students in grades 5, 7, 9, and 11, and is regularly given on a biannual basis. Many sites have also developed site-specific climate surveys these past 2 years, and as a district, we use an additional student survey called Panorama. The information gleaned from these tools provides our staff with focus areas for sites to enhance the overall school experience. And this data also informs social-emotional goals in the school plan for student achievement. Next. In response to survey results and feedback, we've implemented, maintained, or expanded these programs that you can see on the slide. To highlight just a few, the results of the climate surveys and needs assessments led to the increase in recent years in elementary counselors, secondary psychologists, and student support services, and the addition of middle school social workers. Both elementary and secondary restorative justice courses to address hate behavior and language through our restorative justice process, and all student service specialists and student service assistants attended professional development trainings this past year on trauma-informed schools and question, persuade, refer, suicide awareness training. All of these programs, along with the work of our site-positive behavior intervention systems teams and the use of restorative practices, are very powerful in creating schools where every student knows they belong and can succeed. Next slide. Priority 7, access to a broad course of study. In our elementary schools, all students have access to core academic curriculum along with VAPA and PE in both the regular instructional program and through the exploration program this past year. Now, while this was our last year of the exploration program, the VAPA, PE, and STEM lessons that were developed through the exploration program will be shared with teachers to continue to use in the future. Beginning in 2024-25, we'll have a new elementary VAPA program using Prop 28 funds to ensure that all elementary sites receive additional high-quality VAPA activities and lessons. At the middle and high school levels, PUSD offers courses in all of the core academic areas, and we also feature career technical education, continuing our partnership with local post-secondary institutions, including local community colleges and four-year universities. We strive for continuous improvement regarding access to courses, including the AP courses, by identifying barriers and then reducing or eliminating those barriers, such as a result of master schedule constraints. In conclusion, district staff have determined that the Poway Unified School District has met the criteria for all 5 local indicators. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Director Donnelly. Questions? Comments? I'm not calling on her. Who's first?
Well, she's
Ms. Cabret.
All right, I guess we'll take turns. So first mine is on page 7, looking at priority 2. And I know that whenever we do surveys to parents, it seems like the arts and bathrooms always rise to the top. And this one hits on the arts. And so we have
which slide is that? What's the title
number
of the slide?
7,
Sorry.
priority 2, implementation of state academic standards.
Okay, thank you.
And so as we look at visual and performing arts, it's at a 3. We've now had a VAPA coordinator now for a few years. Is she directly involved as you look at what you're doing with the VAPA grants, where you're putting the money in? Is she kind of the coordinator to help you with this, or how are you guys moving it forward?
So one of the reasons we gave ourselves a 3 is if you look at the scale, we've been doing VAPA in the district, and yes, people always have said we want more, and that's across the state. We rolled it back to a 3 this year because really to take in this new funding and look at the best way to expand our VAPA program, that would be why we said we're like in that initial implementation. We see going towards full implementation with sustainability as we continue to build this. Secondary, it was a little bit different to add the courses because you can add a section, you can expand something. Elementary this past year was planning to plan, and so that's the work we've been putting in to roll out next year. So we do have a VAPA coordinator in the district. She's been working a lot with our, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I have drawn a blank, the committee. Strategic Arts Committee, sorry. So she's been leading that work and gathering feedback through the Strategic Arts Committee, which then she shares with us. So a lot of her work this past year has been focusing on secondary as we've been trying to find the model that we would deliver the elementary school plan through next year. Does that answer the question? And bathrooms, I'm not sure where that landed in.
I'll noodle
Okay.
that a little bit, thank you.
Yeah. She's really our expert, like we go to when we have questions about it, and if we're kind of like thinking through things, we bounce them off. It just kind of depends on which part of the VAPA you're thinking about. Okay.
Dr. Patel, you're up. Thank you. You know, I was struggling with that, waiting. So I have a couple questions, of course, as usual. Thank you for your presentation.
One at a
Appreciate it.
time,
I know,
one at a time.
I can only say one at a time. I get it. With slide number 12, when we're talking about school climate, under the California Healthy Kids Survey, a couple of things. Love that our fifth graders still remain highly motivated. Really concerned that that takes a significant hit as we get into middle school. And I think our continued conversations from the board around middle school redesign, you know, it's not just a whim of the board. It's really deeply rooted in the data we've been seeing year after year after year with kids struggling with middle school and wanting to address some of the concerns that pop up around anxiety and the stress our high schoolers feel and being able to better front load them during middle school. So I just want to draw attention to that. But with the California Healthy Kids Survey specifically, from my reading of that survey data, there are different modules that can be used, implemented, added to the standard platform. Have we ever gone back and revisited those different modules to see whether it's time to maybe custom tailor that survey a little bit better? I know there's one specific one around mental health supports and service requirements that teases out that data. As far as I know, we haven't used that module yet. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to go back and revisit the different ones that are available.
So I don't administer it. I don't know if somebody on the board has a answer for that one.
Can I ask Cindy Hicks to come up and speak to the California Healthy Kids Survey?
And it's just a chance, by chance that her email is chicks?
Yes, isn't that funny?
And that request was made by Mr. Mazzell, interim superintendent.
Come on up, chicks. And one thing too is the reason we use these is when you're trying to like track something over years, but we can go into more depth.
But we can start a new set of tracking over
Right.
years as we're implementing new intervention programs to see if they're working.
And we do, I do want to express too, like with Panorama and with site data, we overlap all of these, right? Like, so this might give you one piece of information, then you take your Panorama, then you take your street data. And so we're doing more and more with street data and focus groups at our sites too. That's, you know, now, it's information right now.
Thank you.
So she was talking about, I think, some of the variations that we can add on to the CHIC survey as a district.
We have a lot of modules. Right now, we use our core module. We use the school climate module to determine the climate for staff, parents, and students. We also have the mental health module, which we use at elementary, middle, and secondary. There are varied different modules. There's some on suicide, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Some of them get into a lot more in depth than we usually go. California Healthy Kids WestEd, the educational institute that creates it, has taken the most applicable questions that the broad spectrum parent and student understand and have moved all of those to the core modules. So we get the information we need gleaned from the core modules with the exception of the climate and mental health survey. And that's what we use. It's also a cost factor because for every module you use, it's an additional $100 just for the module. So
Per student?
$100 per module.
Okay.
And then there's the cost to score each of those, even though it's electronic. So we have added climate and the mental health module as we see the need to better assess the programs we're using and how to improve the programs, what the feedback is from the students. But we haven't found ourselves yet at a loss with LCAP or any programs that student support us that we haven't had the information we need either for grant writing or to serve our students in the best way possible.
Well, adding on this is kind of my curiosity. That's why I'm pushing
Oh,
in.
nice
Sorry.
try, Cindy.
Yeah,
Try to
no.
run away.
So as Dr. Patel was saying, there's a significant drop between 5th and 7th grade. And you wonder, is it the transition from 5th to 6th grade, or is it settling in and not being happy in middle school?
It's when we administer it, to be honest.
I know. But when you see almost a 20% difference in multiple categories, should we possibly try a 6th grade test to see, is it the transition? Are kids having a hard time going from elementary school to middle school? Is that where the problem is doing it?
Oh, I
Or
see
are
what you're
they
saying.
unhappy in middle school and it's showing itself in 7th grade? I mean, just to try to figure out, 20%'s a lot in 2 years,
if
but
you-
is it the first year or the second year?
If you want to go back, I started working with the district when we adopted it in 1998. So that's how long we've been doing it. We used to do it in the spring. Our scores were a lot higher because the students have had enough time to develop relationships at school, to feel comfortable with connections to caring adults and programs. Because of the conflict we had with AP testing, state mandated testing, when they loaded it all in the spring, we had to shift our administration to the fall. So what happens is when our 7th graders and 9th graders both go in and take it, they're taking it in October. They've been in school approximately 6, maybe 8 weeks. So it's hard for this to be a good gauge at that time because they don't have the capacity to think back of, oh, in 6th grade or 5th grade, they're in the here and now. So they've just started and they don't know their teachers that well. So we see a drop in the connectedness because it's the beginning of a new year for them.
I would just also like to speak that anecdotally, our principals have shared that from 5th to 6th grade specifically is a big adjustment for our students. Many of our students have been at one school for the entirety of their school career up to that point, and each year been with one teacher and have a very large comfort zone with the students they've been to school with. And then as they transition into 6th grade, they're transitioning from teachers from period to period sometimes, and they have a whole new set of peers to acclimate to. So there is some adjustment from 5th to 6th grade, and we are really pleased with the work we're doing with the San Diego County Office of Ed and the Aspire Network to specifically address some of those areas of connectedness.
And if I can add on
Please.
to what Shelley said, is also, we refer to it, the kids in support groups. They have groups that they can go to. Our student services open up their rooms. They invite the students to come in. They go to every class to let them know where they are, how they can help them acclimate to the new school. And they use the saying of, it's like being with grandma in elementary school or mom, because it is that one, and then they come and they explain it as now you have a bunch of aunts and uncles. So it's easy to go to any of them and how you can access them and how to do it. So student support service specialists have really worked hard to make sure that they've introduced themselves and the students know where to go as they try to navigate now. So they're not just dumped in the middle of this vast school going, oh my gosh, because the girl I sat next to in this class, I don't have her in the next class. So we talk about how to make friends, how to develop peer relationships to try and create that safety net for those schools that begin to feel disenfranchised.
I had one quick thing to add. At grade 6, one of the reasons we implemented Panorama was because we can, number one, identify the students who are being accessed.
Mhm.
California Healthy Kids Survey is anonymous.
Yeah.
So a student who flags right? It's data point, but it's not a person, it's not an individual, where Panorama actually gives us data for real-time people. And we assess twice a year every student in the 4th, 6th, and 9th grade. So we targeted 6th grade exactly to Mrs. Peterson's point. That's a uniquely vulnerable time in our students' lives. And so I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing on the modules for California Healthy Kids, just know when Cindy and I review those, and we do regularly, every other year it seems like, have a conversation about those. One of the things we look at is test fatigue. Because when you add a module, you're adding questions, right? And a bank of questions now extends the length that kids are being tested. So there's other factors that come into play with this that it's not a simple thing.
I have two questions. One circles back to what Ms. Hicks said. If you said the time of year that you're doing it isn't really working to get accurate data, should we be moving it to later? You said we're doing it in mid-October. Should we be doing it in December, or should we be doing it in January, February?
So our hands are tied to answer your question. It's usually fall or spring, and the reason being there's parameters because of the questions on drug and alcohol and usage. You can't give it after you've had more than a 3-day break. So we have Thanksgiving in November, then we have winter break in December, then we have ski week in February. So the earliest we could do it would be April or October. Due to testing schedule, we can't do it in April and May. But so if you listen to when you do the review with WestEd, and they'll walk over and we can look at the dashboard, historically it appears lower, but when you look at the trends, they mirror what you see in the summer. It just appears lower to us because it is at the beginning of the year. But if you go back and look at where we were in the spring, connectedness was the same, was obviously higher, but the safety in school, caring adults, that sort of remained the same. And I have them all the way back to 98 if you'd like to look.
The other question I had is...
We're going to go one question at a time. Cindy's been waiting.
Sorry, I'm so
sorry.
sorry.
Dr. Seitzma, and then we'll go back.
Thank you. Sticking with slide 12, just clarification. Ms. Donnelly, you said that it's offered biannually.
Oh, this is the California Healthy Kids mean? Yes, okay, all
Yes,
right.
slide 12, yes.
Okay.
So in even years, in the fall is when it's offered,
Right, mhm,
correct?
yeah.
So we're not capturing all of our kids then, if it's offered every other year.
We're tracking, see, the 5th graders that took it in 2022 are going to take it in 7th grade of 2024.
It's a cohort.
And then those same students, yes. So we're
Yeah.
following a cohort.
Okay, so every year someone is taking it in 5th grade, or is it only offered?
Every other year, because you're tracking them, it's being given every other year. The students who took it last year in 2022,
So the
2 years,
group,
yeah.
the group of kids that were in the fall of 2022 were in 5th grade.
correct.
What about the group of kids that were in 5th grade this year? They don't take it?
No,
So
they don't.
that's what I meant, is every other year.
Yes.
We have, so
Mhm.
kids that are
I have,
in an even number,
Mhm.
they're,
Correct.
in the fall, they're in an even numbered year. They don't take. they
I have
never
3
participate.
children, and I think 2 of mine took it and 1 didn't. 2 of them remember taking it every time, every, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 1 of them didn't ever.
So how do we capture?
Well,
Capture
trends and
them.
stuff, so this is one piece, because you're watching a cohort, but we have other information that we use. This is one that's recommended by the state, and we use it because it gives us state data and everything else, but we also are using Panorama, we were using site surveys, we have the Aspire at the middle school level, I think we did PASS, I don't know if we're still doing PASS, I can't remember. So we do different surveys over time to capture more than just this 5th grade group working its way through.
One reason, Dr. Seitzma, we do a cohort is we try and see if what we implement is effective. So if we use different students, we wouldn't know necessarily that they received it. So if we look at students that we test in the 5th grade and we see there's an issue, or 7th grade, and we implement a program for them, like tobacco use prevention. Everybody gets it in 7th grade. So then in 9th grade, we want to see how much they retained. Has their tobacco usage gone down? Has their drug usage gone down? So we can tie it back to the programs we implement. If we did it every year in a new cohort, those students wouldn't have had, like if 7th grade and we did it every year in 6th grade, they wouldn't have had the tobacco education. So they'd skew the results and we wouldn't know if the programs were effective or not. So that's why we track the same cohort.
I hear what you're saying. I wish that we could see what all of our kids were thinking and capture them.
So I'm getting whispers in my ear. We do that with Panorama. Would someone like to speak to that really briefly?
We assess every 4th, every 6th, and every 9th grade student twice every year with Panorama for the last 3 years. Yeah, and that, remember, is the survey that's not anonymous. So to Cindy's point, when a student flags in the fall and staff implement services, provide for the family resources, we can track from the fall to the spring when that student reassesses if we've moved the needle, and thereby kind of track program and staff effectiveness or ineffectiveness, and then continue to make changes as necessary.
So I want to start back kind of in the same order we went the first time, and to ask another question if there are still some outstanding ones. I think I started with Ms. Couvret. Okay, Dr. Patel.
If we could go to slide 14. Cindy, we don't need you anymore.
That's not true. We
or
need
maybe
you
I
forever.
don't.
You can never retire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Just for this presentation. When I want to draw your attention to the elementary core academics. I think word is still getting out there, information is still getting out there around the restructuring of our exploration program and how that's going to be built back, the components of it are going to be built back into instruction. Can you provide a little more detail? You touched on VAPA. Can you talk about the PE component that we used to get from exploration and the technology component as well, and how that's going to be incorporated into the school schedule?
So those are before even
Because they have asterisks next to them. So,
Yeah, I couldn't remember why I put the asterisks there. I'm sorry, that is my goof. I think I was just trying to point out that those came in through exploration. And so one of the things is, remember, multiple subject teachers teach all the subjects. And then PE, we got a lot of parent feedback and teacher feedback over the years. And so when we were developing the exploration program many years ago, we put STEM and VAPA and PE in there because we were trying to go ahead and offer this. I think at the time it was 15 to 17 times a year this team came out. So that was a really innovative program in our district, and I think it was 2016. So as part of that, that doesn't mean that teachers didn't do any PE outside of exploration. So they still do VAPA, they still do PE, they still do technology. We have an amazing tech and innovation team who does a lot of work through the Voyager program. So, and then we have our one-to-one program in all the grades. So all those things have been going on. So it was an addition to, and part of it came about, like we said, because parents and community and teachers all said they wanted more. So with the cost of exploration is ending this year. It's a very expensive program, but we did learn about this model delivery that we can use. And I will tell you honestly, when the Prop 28 money first came out and the elementary principals and they said, here's the money, and start thinking about it, immediately we started thinking about, do we have a model that we would like to see either used, or how do we do this as a whole elementary so it looks consistent across all our elementary sites? That was the initial right then and there. And so last year when we said, start thinking about your money, most said this year is a year to plan. Because it takes a long time to build a big district program like this around VAPA. We're lucky that we worked out the kinks that came with expiration on how to deliver, how to make sure that everybody's in place at the right time and teachers have collaboration time. So we're excited that that model has been fine-tuned over the year, and we can step into that with the VAPA lessons, which are going to be completely separate and different from the ones that we've used in the past. The neat part is all those lessons that have been fine-tuned and tweaked over the years through exploration, the PE lessons, the VAPA lessons, the STEM ones, we're going to post those for teachers to be able to use and continue to use in their classrooms moving forward. So they're not going away. A lot of work put into those lessons. So teachers are still going, classroom teachers can still access those. The VAPA lessons are being created from ground up and with input from community, from high school, middle school, Kayla Warren, our VAPA coordinator. So that's where the VAPA program's going to go. Okay.
And just to clarify, the exploration, the PE component in exploration was never meant to cover all of the required PE instruction in the elementary school.
Correct.
And that is what our elementary teachers will be.
Correct.
Or are always have been.
Always have
responsible.
been,
Okay.
yes. It's been in addition to, yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay, Ms. Plotsky. One at a time.
So, one of the questions I have is, can students opt, or parents opt their children out of taking these tests?
Which ones? The survey?
Yeah, these surveys.
Yeah, is it opt-in or opt-out? I can't remember which one it is. It's an opt-out, yes.
Okay.
At fifth grade, just to interrupt, at fifth grade is positive permission. So every fifth grade parent has to sign permission for their children to take it. California Ed Code now makes secondary passive permission, which means every student takes it unless their parents send a handwritten note or a note through U.S. mail to our office asking to have their child opted out.
But do we notify the parents that the test is coming up?
It's part of the registration packet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Couvret.
I heard some mumblings in the audience about the PE and such like that, and I was wondering, how many minutes per week are teachers supposed to be teaching PE?
It's a state requirement through sixth grade that it's 200 minutes every 2 weeks, every 10 days. We say 2 weeks, but it actually could vary a little bit based on vacations and things like that. But every 10 days, it's 200 minutes.
Okay,
So
we're
20
looking at
minutes a
20
day.
minutes a day?
Yeah. But it
Okay.
doesn't have to be every day. It could be in bigger blocks.
And that's elementary school as well? what
That
you're
that
saying?
is
That's
elementary school, yeah. It's K. Actually, I don't think it's K. I think it's first grade through sixth grade. I'd have to look that up. I don't
Okay.
think K
And is
has
that a
PE
coordinated time
standards.
with the schools? Do they actually kind of figure out the timing on the fields and stuff to coordinate, or is it up to the individual teachers to
It
coordinate?
varies greatly. Some would have a coordinated times because they're working around recess. It varies a lot, I can tell you.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Plotsky.
I noticed on all of the priorities, like priority number 3 on page 9, priority on page 10, and on page 11, all of the parent engagement sections, they're rated lower than, they're on 4s. Is that something that we're working towards improving?
Well, we're always working towards improving, and so it means
And
it's
how?
in full implementation. So if you think about like, let's say slide 9, can you flip back to 9? So in the building relationships, if you look at this, when we give it a 4, is developing the capacity of staff to build trusting and respectful relationships with the families. I would say we're a 4 to 4 plus. We take input from, this isn't just me sitting up here and giving us a 4. You know, we have conversations across the departments and looking at this. When we go to, say, our equity advisory committee and we get input, that tells us we've still got work to do, right? And so for it to be sustainable means you've got a system in place, and that's work that we're doing like within our equity advisory committee. If you've been to one of those, they're presenting lots of different ideas through subcommittees. So we're constantly seeking to do better in every way. Sustainability means that you can sustain it and you don't have to worry about funding coming and going and things like that. And it's all dependent on one person or two people. So how do we systematize everything we do and make it sustainable? That's our goal in everything.
Okay, because I was just concerned, it seems like there's a lot of fours in the parent section
I think,
on every page, so.
well, we have on page 10, I believe it's fives. Because we do have systems in place with the information and resources to support student learning. We have a parent resource page, we have parent-teacher conferences, we have things that are built into the system that can continue on. They're well-built, and we maintain them, and we tweak them with more input, but we feel like those are areas that we have sustainability in.
Other questions? Oh, it looks like you get to ask your last one. Go.
I have one more. Okay. So, are students with special education in special day classes asked these questions as well, or take these tests as well?
I talked about the California Healthy Kids Survey. Cindy, I believe it's given to every student unless, again, the parent opts out.
It is not given to special ed students.
In special day class or?
Special day class does, special ed, it doesn't, and that is not that is through West Ed.
Oh.
It's comprehension.
I don't know what West Ed means.
For anyone listening at home, the answer to that was no. At least some of our students with IEPs do not take this, and I think there's some discussion up here about which students on IEPs might not take it.
I'd like more information sent to the board on that later.
Other questions from the board? All right. This is just a presentation, so we don't have to vote on this one. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your work on this.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Takes us to board member reports, 12.1. And for her very last one, Ms. Trivedi, take it away.
I was told that I wouldn't be able to top my board comment from last week, but I will try anyway. While I am happy to have graduated high school, I'm really sad to be leaving the board. I remember back in April of the last school year, after I was appointed to be the next student board member, my mom asked me, "So you're telling me you're interested in all this budget and employee stuff?" And although half the stuff that goes on here goes over my head, I'm just so fascinated by the business of the board. And if I could even learn one new thing about local government or state education laws each meeting, that was a success for me. And I think the first thing I really gained from this experience is a greater appreciation of local government. And I think we can all agree that in the last couple of years, there's been this huge nationalization of politics where even our local news are covering what's going on the other side of the country rather than what's happening right outside our homes and our own school districts. And I think to get a chance to see that more and see what issues we're facing in a school district, the smallest level of government, and see how we're able to navigate those obstacles is such a fascinating thing. So I'm grateful for that. The second thing I'm really grateful to have gotten to experience is an amazing group of colleagues and mentors. I remember in elementary and middle school when there would be 1 or 2 days per year when our teacher would be a little extra stressed. She'd tell us to clean our desks, be on our best behavior because the bosses of the principal were coming that day. And I remember sitting up just a little straighter, and then trustees Kufred or O'Connor Ratcliffe would walk in their pantsuits or heels around midday, and I think, wow, so these are the big kahuna. And to think that I'm here today with these amazing women behind this dais, being told to refer to them on a first name basis, even though I'm still not comfortable doing that. I think it's just, all I can say is that it's been a real honor to have this opportunity. And the last thing I want to express gratitude for is something as simple as the mechanism of the board meeting itself. Somebody the other day asked me what my favorite part of being a student board member was, and I said it's being a part of the board meeting. If our democracy is a ladder, the board meeting is like the first rung of it. It's the first place people go to, to speak up, to voice frustration, concern about things directly affecting them, and the fact that they can come here, even students as young as 10 years old, or some of our first graders who come here and talk about how events of their school are impacting them, to have that power given to them, to give them that power, I think that's such a special thing, and I think we are so lucky to have that opportunity as community members to voice our opinions, and so peace out.
It is totally hard going after you, Nirja. And feel free to use a first name going forward, because now you've graduated from this dais. I'm going to miss you. I'll get to that at the second half of my board report. I am going to try to keep my comments brief, since other board members didn't get a chance to speak last week, not last month. So first of all, thank you for sticking it out and listening to our board reports. Thankfully, this isn't as late as we ran last month when we got to this point. So in remarks for my activities for the week, I did attend 3 promotion graduation ceremonies at Park Village Elementary. This was my last year being able to attend that promotion ceremony. I've been attending it for quite a while. Every year I get invited back since I've been a trustee on this board, and it was very special to be at an elementary school that's not one we typically get invited to. But seeing those children that I've watched grow up over the years is just so special. Like my neighbor's kids promoted across that stage. So that was awesome that I got to be invited to preside over that promotion ceremony, as well as Mesa Verde was an especially special one for me this year, as well as my youngest one promoted. So I got to hand her diploma and hug a few of her friends as well as they walked across that stage. For the high school graduation ceremony, I attended Mount Carmel, which really was a fantastic graduation ceremony. It's clear that that high school has deep-rooted traditions that the parents continue to honor even generation after generation, and it was lovely to be able to participate in that ceremony. So this year, kind of in summary, as we're closing out the year and heading into vacation mode, the board will not be in vacation mode. Apparently, we will probably most likely be meeting over the summer. We've had a lot of challenges our community has brought forward to us, and I continue to applaud the efforts of our community to bring critical matters to our attention. It's not often that we hear everything that's going on at the school site level. Board members tend to stay very at the high level, and sometimes there are things going on at our schools that we haven't heard anything about. So I appreciate parent and community advocacy. It helps us draw attention to issues that we need to focus on. And then finally, Nirja, I am really going to miss you. It's been great serving next to you. I look forward to following your career as you pursue that political science degree, or maybe something in addition or different as you move forward in life. And just stay in touch. I wish you all the best. Thank you. That concludes my report.
So I as well am going to miss Nirja. And as she graduated last week, I was lucky enough to get to hand my own daughter her diploma as she crossed the stage at RB High last week. And I have to say, besides once in a while getting a saved parking spot somewhere across the district, that was probably the highlight of this job. And I will get to do 2 more of those graduations in the next 2 years before my re-election. And it was extremely emotional. More for her, as I saw her, I had to point out, stop, because she was already crying coming up the ramp as I could see her. But I also had her friends like leaping into my arms as they were getting their diplomas as well. And it was a highlight. It doesn't get any better than that. And that's what we're here for. And it was a reminder that that's what we're here for. And a lot of those kids, it took a lot watching some of the special needs kids and some of my daughter's friends that I know have a high anxiety, and some of them are in special ed. They knew, okay, Sarah Bass' mom's going to be there, or Parker's mom's going to be on stage. Just look for her, and then it'll be okay. So that also meant a lot. And teachers told their kids that I was going to be there because they knew who I was, because they knew I was in those classrooms visiting often. Another thing that happened last month that was fantastic was the CTE event at Hewlett-Packard. And I took my youngest two kids to that, and they're both teens as well in RB High. And Kenwell, who's somewhere back hiding, doing the IT and for the videos. My middle son has autism, and he's in the middle of the spectrum, and he is brilliant though. But he doesn't like to apply himself, or doesn't really know how. And he doesn't want to do any CTE classes. But we don't want him to be, someone that works at a grocery store when we know he can hack into anybody here's cell phone if you left it sitting somewhere, or your computer. So we can't get him to take a computer class, and we want him to take cybersecurity because he hooked up a camera to our television with a wire, and he was on the web, because we won't give him a computer. So Ken talked to him for about 5 minutes, and he was asking him questions that we had never thought to ask him, because we were just, no, you have to take these classes. And in doing that, within 5 minutes, Ken had asked him questions that we had never thought to ask. Like, how do you see those? What are you doing when you're seeing them? Ignore your mom, but what do you see when you're getting on there? Because I just want to know. It's a superpower to what you do. I'm the guy that's trying to stop you, and I can't figure it out. And he said, well, I don't know, I see a glitch. And he's he said, like a cheat code getting into a video game? And he said, yeah. He said, do you realize how important that is? That's what I want to do. My job is to stop you. He said, and bankers will pay them a lot of money, and you might not want to work at a school district or at a bank, but you want to work at a video game place because they don't want people to break your cheat codes. And my son said, I can work at a video game place trying to stop that and play video games all day, just looking for the glitches. And within that 5-10 minute conversation, my son agreed to take CTE classes that we had been trying, he'll be a senior, for 3 years to get him to take. And that's what's great about Team PUSD. They know, and he's an admin, they all work together. They know how to help our kids in most unexpected ways. And that's what I'm grateful for. Because we're a team, everybody. We might not all see it. There's people, like I said, hiding behind those walls, videoing us tonight. And sometimes those are the people that help the most. So I just want to say thank you to all the people that don't get noticed, don't get their names read out, don't get seen every day. But thank you, and have a great summer.
So chaparrals in the house, you guys know I love you. I wish I didn't have you guys come here today and called me instead. But I had a wonderful call with the parent from Chaparral today. And one thing that was mentioned is so many times we have information top down versus bottom up. Didn't realize that on pizza day, we run out of pizza. Didn't know that, but I learned that today, that we run out of pizza on pizza day. Also, not only were we talking about obviously the arts and such, and some miscommunication that could definitely be better, and transparency that we need to work on, but also just some goals I had as far as supports for our gardens, so that actually the people who handle the gardens can go on vacation. We have master gardeners that can come in. So there's a lot of great things. You don't have a garden right now?
We have a garden, but they have not asked them to come back.
Okay. All right, I can't have you talk. I just was like, no garden. Anyway, so I have to re-talk to my new friend and find that out. But anyway, it's always good to touch base. I was there for 16 years, I'm not there anymore, and it's a shame when we get off of the campuses that we lose touch with some of the little things that we can fix. Now, there's some bigger things that are much harder and have a lot more issues, but there are some things that are common sense that if we know about and can brainstorm solutions, there's some ideas out there. So on that note, sometimes phone calls get a lot more done sometimes, so please, this is just helpful because I care about you guys, and Thanksgiving basket's right around the corner, and I'll be knocking on your doors for donations. So anyway, but thank you for coming. Graduations, Bernardo Heights was the middle school I got to go to. We need to put a railing down the middle of the stage, because I'm standing up there and all the kids are looking at me going, oh my gosh, I need to walk down those stairs. I'm wearing heels for like the first time. I'm going to fall. So we need to get a banister down there for graduation, because a lot of us were a little nervous about that little walk without holding onto a banister. There's not. So anyway, but it was a wonderful celebration. And anyway, then also I was at Del Norte, which was a fantastic celebration. It's always fun to see the joy in these high schoolers. They know what they've accomplished. The parents are so proud, and they know it's kind of the last chance to have all their friends together like this. And I know most of them took probably an hour to get off the field because they were all taking so many pictures and enjoying the day. I am going to miss my first Abraxas graduation on Tuesday, and I am heartbroken. But all three of my kids fly in this weekend. In fact, one lands at 10:30 today. So unfortunately, when kids are adults, I only get 3 days with them, so I'm going to miss it. But I love Abraxas. I'm always so proud of what those students have accomplished, because they don't just get the grades. They have overcome incredible obstacles. And for the strength that they have, if they use those superpowers, they will be successful in life. I want to wish all the dads out there a happy Father's Day, and have a wonderful summer. I know a lot of you guys need a little bit of break, and I hope you guys get them and come back all rejuvenated for the next year.
Thank you, and good evening for the final board meeting of the 23-24 school year. I had the honor of being present for the Twin Peaks and Poway High School ceremonies last week, and they're special places to me. As I'm a present at those campuses anyway, but the kids that I have connected with over the years, as I watched them cross the stage, and when you get to be in that moment with those kids, with more than just your own child, not that my kids were crossing any stages just yet, but when you're there and you're embraced by kids that you've watched grow up, it's an honor that you know that you've been able to touch more than one. But if you can touch at least one, then you know that you're making your impact, and that will carry forward. And looking forward to Abraxas next week. I think some of us will be there. That one's always really special too. They're all special. In kind of piggybacking in the words of Ms. Trivedi, of how we have a unique democracy system, and the experiences that we have here are so uniquely different. As I roll back, and I mentioned way back in August that we were doing something really different this year as a family when we took on an exchange student. Our 10 and a half months has flown by, and while there have definitely been ups and downs with having a second 17-year-old girl in the house, she will officially leave us on Tuesday to fly home. And I would say that the benefits far outweighed the negativity of teenage moodiness in the household. But the way that she viewed her experience here, and the friendships that she made, from my understanding, as she talked about her own country, and their democracy, and we've been privileged to get to know her family as they've been here now a couple of times. They're going to probably be at my house when I get home. But it's really different over there, and they don't get the comprehensive experiences that our kids do. And though it's definitely not a perfect system, they have access to so much, and they have a voice. The fact that she came home after the first week of school and said that her teacher wanted to get to know her, you don't build a relationship with your teachers where she comes from. It's just, it doesn't happen. They knew very little about her, and she went all the way through school. She graduated a little early, so this was like a gap year for her before she goes back and starts college in the fall now in her home country. But through her, she happened to just gravitate to the same interest as the other exchange students. So we were able to build these bonds with kids that I know will last, that represent, they were here on an exchange from 4 different countries, and they were at my house last weekend, and they're reflecting on their year here, and that, we were able to be just to view our system a little differently through their eyes. And because of that, I think all the downside of the teenage moodiness in our house, the positives definitely far outweigh it. People have asked, "Are you going to do it again?" Well, I don't know about that. I don't know that we would. Maybe I would consider it again. But if you've ever thought about, we got into this thinking that we wanted to expose our kids to more culture. And the fact that, our kids are high school, almost high school, we didn't get to travel to other cultures like we had wanted to expose them. So let's bring culture into them. And we definitely checked that box this year. And learning about kids, their experiences from Turkey, Spain, Australia, the Netherlands, is so different. Not necessarily better or worse, just different. And you just learn to appreciate what we have. And they learn to appreciate what they have as well. Ms. Trivedi, I am so bummed that we are going to just barely miss you when we tour Harvard this summer. So maybe next go around. Congratulations to you, and best of luck. You better let us know how you are doing. And with that, I wish you all a happy summer. Take a well-needed break, and I conclude my report.
Thank you. I got cut off by our 10:30 deadline last week, so here I go. I'm doing all my last week stuff here, but and not skipping the opportunity this time to talk about a few things, because this is a year-end showcases over and over and over again in so many different venues. I was part of our middle college's internship defensive learning panel. You guys have to do this next year. It was truly, this is their graduating seniors who presented and answered questions from the panel, a bunch of people, about their internship experiences. And they were just outrageously good. All of them did a PowerPoint. They talked about work competencies, what they learned, how they grew, where their experiences are pointing them to next. I met a future biology major, an engineer, a designer, a teacher, a cybersecurity expert, and a future lawyer. And they all had such a good idea of where they were going and what they needed to work on. It was just great, the reflection, just tremendous. Again, it's an outstanding piece of the PPMC experience. I believe we can and should push this out to our other high schools. I'd love to see this moving that way, because this was just outrageously impressive, and I think something that the students benefited from enormously. The District Equity Advisory Committee held its final meeting as well. A fabulous job by these 49 stakeholders who participated in multiple meetings over the year in an effort to refine our district racial equity and inclusion plan and add some new metrics that we could, how are we doing? Are we making progress? And new things that we can do to forward our district goals here that the the board has outlined. And I think that, there's been no change in the board's commitment to that work. And the district work has actually ramped up year over year. So I expect this will continue. And the addition of, in addition to our Equity Advisory Committee, the district also has equity teams now established at every single school, collecting street data, as they're calling it, and creating action plans for what comes next. Schools are working for annual No Place for Hate designations. I was at Mount Carmel with Dr. Seitzma for their multicultural fair as part of their work in this area. Student support specialist Sheila Hatfield. Amazing work over there. The student equity advisory groups are really developing at the high school level. Del Norte has been amazing for several years now. Poway High and Mount Carmel have really notable progress there. Do you know we had 50 of our students attend the Black Student Summit in San Diego, the most of any school district in the county? We are not the biggest district, but we have the most representation there. We are scaling our restorative practices across all of our school sites. We're improving our diverse hiring and retention efforts. We've hosted several listening sessions. Thank you, Mr. Mizell, for that, for students to share their experiences. And we're doing professional development and conferences to support all of these efforts. We are having to cut in some areas, but this is a priority for us. So please don't doubt for a minute that our board and district commitment to improving the sense of belonging for all of our students, all of our staff, and all of our families is real. And as always, we welcome your partnership, including all of our site PTAs and Palomar Council. One other way we're doing this work is with our students with disabilities, and I want to highlight that work for a minute as well, because that is heavy lifting and we are moving the needle here. At the recent SIP conference that's supporting inclusive practices, Nancy Brundrett, Laura Snow, Megan Gross, Michelle Gilly, and Principal Kelly Moore presented to a packed Zoom room. The title of their thing, An Inclusive Journey, 5 years on the road towards inclusive PK to 12. This has not been easy, but we are moving the needle, and their presentation was so well received. They received endless questions. They had to get out of there because the Zoom period ended. They could have answered questions, I think, for another 30, 40 minutes easy. Our Special Education Community Advisory Committee, I think we heard about this last time, but they received over 400 nominations for their Special Education Excellence Awards ceremony. They had to select just 6 winners. I want to call them out for that hard work. I think reading those 436, I think it was, nominations was probably pure joy and pleasure for them, but that's a lot of work, and those are parents in our district. They crushed it, and those 6 winners were truly amazing. Amazing, and I do get choked up when I think about them. The district also awarded 5 Inclusive Practices Schools of Excellence banners to Sundance, Bernardo Heights, Meadowbrook, Oak Valley, and Garden Road for really impressive work they've done this year for our students with disabilities. Student and staff wellness have been on our minds too. That 2nd annual School Counselors Showcase, I think we were all there. Oh, yeah. That was, it was about how our counselors are making data-informed decisions to guide their work with our students and track successes. I was so impressed. Again, year 2, more impressive than the first year if that's possible. Our students need these types of supports more than ever. I remain really steadfast in my resolve to maintain all of these people and programs despite our budget challenges. I think the board was all there, and thank you for Cabinet and all our staff for finding different ways to meet our budget needs. I know it gets harder, but I'm grateful that we were able to keep them for at least next year. Westview PTSA, I call them out all the time for their great work, but they brought in their therapy dogs from Love on a Leash like they always do right before finals. Do you ever hug a dog? I'm not sure I've seen you, Ms. Trivedi.
Because the Westview gym, during AP testing, this group of birds started living in the gym. And so for the last couple of months, we've had these birds living in the gym. And during AP testing, they would chirp and sing. And so we called them our unofficial therapy birds because Yeah, they comforted students during AP testing, but they were never like hired.
I'm
They
glad.
just
I
lived
thought
there.
you were going to say you don't go to the gym because you're scarred by AP testing
No,
or
the
something,
birds-
so I'm glad that wasn't the story. No, that means she doesn't pet dogs. It's all right. I do. So, the campus tree planting event also meant for future generations of students coming there to have their shade space, and there is none. That's the shade, the entirety of shade in the Westview campus is palm tree shade, and that really is almost non-existent. So kudos to them. The PUSD Safety Summit, again, Mr. Meisel's land here, focused on our student wellness and mental health. Lots of student voice there, coupled with parent and expert perspective. One of the fifth grade Hope Squad students who presented really got me. And I had a hard time recovering after she said it, but their motto is keep your face to the sun and the shadows will fall behind you. I had to write it down, and I was trying to recover after that, and it was hard to hear what a lot of people said after that because I was just so in the moment with that student, with that child. Just a ton of great events this month, but I'll wrap it up. To Ms. Trivedi, I'm super excited I got to whoop for you at your graduation at Westview. You told me what side you were on, and I was on the wrong side anyway because I can't follow directions, apparently. I'm very sorry I missed that. To our staff here in the room and at all our school sites, thank you. It's been a long year. There's been a lot going on, and you stuck with it. You did your best. You never stopped for our students, and I appreciate you all. Cabinet up here, same thing. This has not been easy, to say the least, and you moved. We kept moving, and thank you. Thank you. We had hard work to do, and you did it. Interim Superintendent Meisel, thank you for stepping up to take the lead I'm not even going to try to describe the moment. Just say it was hard is the understatement of, all time, perhaps. And to the board, thank you all. We've had a lot of work. We've had a lot of hours. We've taken a lot. Maybe we deserve some of it, but thank you all for smiling mostly and getting through it, including our student board member who, she didn't know what she was coming into. She gets a lot of the same emails we do and has nothing to do with any of those decisions, but it does help understand what we're going through. And I appreciate everyone's perspective and your commitment to this work. So I'll wrap it up. Have a great summer, whether you're coming back in August, moving on to your next thing. I plan to go to the beach as often as I can. And again, Ms. Trivedi called me out for my quotes, but I got a song again. Zach Brown and Jimmy Buffett got it right, so I'm just going to paraphrase. I'm going to put the world away for a minute, pretend I don't live in it, get knee-deep in the water somewhere. I got to feel the breeze blowing through my hair. Only worry in the world, will the tide reach my chair? I'm going to say no, and if it does, good. So hope you all take some time to find your paradise, and oh my gosh, I need it. I need some time. Thanks. Yours.
All right. Well, thank you all for those reports. Mr. Trivedi, your smile and energy at the end of that dais has been a lift, really, from February to June and well before that. But for me in particular, just hearing your reports, and the last two in particular, really thoughtful, insightful. And I'm reminded you represent one of 2,700 graduates of the Poway Unified School District last week, and each and every one of you has a unique story. And none of you, right, has accomplished what you have. None of you walked across those stages without a lot of people behind you. Parents, you are loved, you are lovely, right? And this is a community that takes good care of our children, and these are this is the payoff, right? There's the ups and downs that you heard referenced, the good times and the harder moments, but great communities, right? We have a lot, and we have a lot to celebrate. And last week was really special. I really enjoyed hearing our speakers. Oh my gosh, the speaker at Del Norte, go back and listen to his speech. It was so good. And the valedictorian at Rancho Bernardo, I'd pay to hear her speak again. So good. Really so good. You had poetry. They're all amazing. So, like I said, each and every one of our 2,700 graduates, they have remarkable stories, and they fill us each and every one of them with hope, because that's what it's all about. There's a lot of noise, there's angst, there's conflict, there's, in our environment, right, a lot of things that can sort of sometimes pull us off our true north, steal our joy a bit, and it's being on a stage and watching the culmination of all those efforts, right, like come together. There it is, and it's beautiful. So, and I am Team PUSD mindful that so many of our staff have influenced our students. It's the high school teachers that often celebrate that culminating event, that high school graduation, but there are preschool, there are elementary, there are middle school teachers all along the way supporting our kids, believing in our kids, infusing vision and hope in our kids, standing with them when their confidence is rattled, when they're experiencing failure, when they're comparing themselves to others and feeling anxious and insecure. Like, there's so many people, so many people. And then when you think about, right, our kids and our schools, it's not just teachers, right? So when you think about a welcoming environment, I don't know, one of the things I look at that we walk right past oftentimes is the grounds, the cleanliness. Like, we have classified staff behind the scenes who engage in really hard work, thankless work often, day in and day out, making our campuses welcoming, safe, nurturing places that parents feel good dropping their kids off, and places where our kids feel good learning, and often proud to be affiliated with and a part of. So Team PUSD, well done. Those graduations to me are representative moments. I hope you all get a break. Find that thing that gives you some rest and bounce back in your step, because August will be here before we know it. And of course, PUSD doesn't sleep. We have summer school and summer programs. We have ESS, we have ESY, we have youth enrichment. There's a lot happening. And we have, again, a whole group of people in maintenance and operations who will be fixing, repairing, addressing, right, things that during the school year we couldn't, and doing the deep cleaning. For everybody in this organization, thank you. And to Michelle's point, right, we've kept our eye on the prize, and we've continued moving forward, and for that I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be a part of this organization. I'm grateful for each person at the dais on both sides. I'm grateful for all of you in the audience, and for the three of you watching us right now. So, and to the board, I'll just close by saying thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve in this role, and for giving me this expanded leadership opportunity. Peace out, my friend.
I do believe that brings us to number 14, but unfortunately, we don't get to adjourn all the way. We're going back to closed session, team. But I will announce that our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Thursday, August 15th at 6 p.m. So we will adjourn this portion of the meeting at 8:34.